All right, so I wanted to share a bit about, to me, the biggest challenging class I had to get online was teaching helping skills, because that's one we really, uh, we practice in a live course. We do a lot of practice, and so to me, it was the most challenging one to put online. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And let me see if I can get my screen. There we go. So as far as an outline of what I'm going to cover in this presentation, a brief part on pedagogy. I'll talk about best practices for online teaching and some examples of, I'll share what I use in this course and invite your feedback. And we'll be talking about how we can incorporate continuous improvement and adaptation into our courses. And I apologize for my voice. I've had a cold for the past week, but it's hopefully better than it was. Okay, so my favorite model of teaching is based on Malcolm Knowles for adult learners, since that's what we have in higher ed, right? Our school is religiously based, and so the average age of our students is maybe a little older than where you teach. They're about 40 is the average age, I believe, but I'm in a master's program as well. But this model works really well for them, and especially in teaching helping skills. The recommendation from Knowles include using case studies, role-playing simulations, self-evaluation, and adopting the role of a facilitator or resource, and focusing more on the process than the content, which sounds very counseling related, doesn't it? Most of our students are pretty self-motivated. School is an option they've chosen, although we still get excuses sometimes for running late. But one of the benefits of COVID-19 has been raising the value of online learning, seeing the value in it, and making everybody more familiar with using products like Zoom, like we're using today, because we've been able to incorporate that into our courses as well. And just to mention this, our school's been doing online teaching for many years. So we're kind of glad, like we're in the norm now. Okay, so when you design a course, and you all are in higher ed, so you've probably done this, your teaching style or your pedagogy, and then you're looking at your content, and then how you're going to assess it. So online teaching is, of course, very similar to on campus as far as basic principles go about designing your course. Our program is asynchronous, while some online programs are synchronous, which means students have to be there at a certain time, and the lectures are live, and maybe some run like 3 hours like a regular classroom would. Again, it's nice to throw some polls in there, get some feedback, and get some Q&A time, incorporate breaks and things if you're running a 3-hour course. And Zoom has, of course, breakout rooms you can use. Some of this other stuff, I know, chat features, letting people raise their hands or vote in a poll, right? And if you're working from home, I've tried a privacy screen, and the fake backgrounds to me always look very fake. But I try to keep it kind of the same background so that I'm not exposing my entire home. Like when I do live counseling, that's the same thing. Consistency is helpful, and also I want to retain some of my privacy. But those are in considerations if you're making recorded lectures to share in a course. Our asynchronous courses do contain recorded lectures. We have a video studio that we use on campus to create those. So we have a pretty professional person who runs that for us. And that matters, quality matters. I'm also an evaluator for Blackboard's exemplary courses. And so I just want to cover a couple of the elements that they believe are important. let's do a hand raise. How many of you use Blackboard? I know there's many learning systems out there. Oh, okay, about half. But they're similar, I'm sure. Their program allows you to submit your course, and it can be evaluated by a peer and get a rating of it as an exemplary course, including all the aspects of the online learning that they identify as helpful. And so one of the points that they made was, how do you determine if you're the course developer? And I realize not everybody is in an online environment. How do you determine if your course is successful, and who is it you're trying to satisfy? So for me, when I write a course, I have my administrative people, but if my course is not a good one, I mean, students can drop out. There's many choices in higher ed today. They don't even have to stay with our program. I mean, but I do have objectives. I do have time frame. I don't have a particular budget unless I'm asking for something specific, but I do definitely have time frames. And when you sit to design a course, you have to allow, for me, I have written courses on the fly, which I do not like because they're much poorer quality than when I have a whole semester or two to build a course and plan the elements that I want in it. But that's something that Blackboard emphasizes, is in the course design, the importance of that. So as far as designing it, your course should have clear goals and objectives for the learner. They should be appropriate and measurable goals. So in higher ed, we have a syllabus, we have learning outcomes explicitly written out. And so your assessment should align with those learning objectives. And Blackboard also wants us, their guidelines are that we put the content into manageable segments, and we include multimedia like live lectures, or certainly at least recorded lectures. And they want navigation to be easy for the learner to follow. So I'm sure in all your courses, you don't just say, read this whole book and then we're going to have an exam. It's set up by weekly lessons in your semesters, and you have due dates for each assignment. And then you have we use a schedule so the student can look ahead week by week and see what assignments are due. Because they want learners to be able to understand the purpose of the assignments, the due dates, and how to complete them. But even if you're doing a webinar like this, it is nice to tell people what you're going to share, what you hope they get out of it, and so they can follow along with the process. Of course, Blackboard wants us to use technology. They are technology, but they're referring to other multimedia material that you can put in, or photos from whatever your topic is. One of our courses, a different course that I teach, we have them watch a movie, and then the assignment is to design a counseling intervention at a point of their choosing in the film, just to change it up from reading written case studies and things to make it a little more exciting. Blackboard also wants you to have assistive technology. Sometimes that's beyond the capacity of the individual instructor, but like captions for pictures, what is it called? The words that appear when your lecture is showing. And we also need to consider learning styles. So obviously in higher ed, people are going to have to read, but sometimes we can support that with lectures on the topic, and we can change assignments up so they're not always just a written discussion question, but group work, role plays, or creating flyers or handouts are some things I've had them do in groups. And kinesiology, it was listed on this learner support and learning styles section. So the only thing I could think that I've ever done that had to do with kinesiology was having students, their posture in counseling counts, right? That's the closest I could come to incorporating that particular learning style into an online course. So Blackboard's guidelines, again, focus on both synchronous and asynchronous activities. Even optional live meetings are helpful, which we've been incorporating into our courses, especially since COVID has come. I think I might be behind myself on the slide there. So collaboration fosters a learning community, right? When we add live sessions, I typically use those to go over last week's assignments, and only a few students will show up if they're optional, but you can record those and make them a part of the lesson where students are required to watch them and put a quiz question or something related to it if you really want them to watch it. But it's very helpful for going over assignments you've had them complete in the previous week. Blackboard also looks at, for these exemplary courses, that your instructions for every assignment are clear, that you're using rubrics, and that you have good examples of how to communicate in the class. Okay, so their guidelines for assessment is that students know what to expect. All the assessments you give are aligned with the course goals. Examples of desired outcomes, like a sample paper or something, might be provided, and that you have many assessments, not just one. And they recommend that you use a variety of assessments. So we use test, papers, discussions, group assignments. I've tried using the wiki feature in there before. I have used the journals quite a bit. Of course, written exercises are easy. And then for this course, we use a lot of video work in the helping skills course. Online courses should really mimic the same kind of assessments we might use in a live classroom. Okay, and Blackboard's guidelines for learner support include that orientation materials should be easy to find. We usually have an orientation lecture at the beginning of the first week that addresses not only, here's where the syllabus is, the lessons are laid out this way, but we also mention how to get to the library, how to find the other links through the school. And we put a link to I'd like to put a picture of the books and tips on where to find them at a good price. We have a help link for Blackboard technology support too, because that's the better we get with technology, the quicker and the better we're able to respond to students, and our IT department is really doing an exemplary job of staying on top of their requests. Instructors' contact information and how best to communicate with your instructor should be clearly listed in the course, and that's part of the exemplary rating system. Our college requires us to respond to students within 24 hours for any query. On the weekend, we have 48 hours, but 24 hours is a long time. Sometimes I feel like I'm really tied to my phone or my laptop because students are emailing all the time. But for me, I prefer email. I can answer that much quicker than I can to return a phone call. But just make sure that your expectations are, and they can expect to understand how soon you'll get back to them. Another item is to explain your role in the course. So I've written a lot of the courses in this degree program, and we have some adjuncts teaching. And so they have to make clear that they're facilitating my lectures. Otherwise, students just email me with questions about the class because they see me in the lecture. So that may be an issue that you do. Maybe you, every school's different of how courses are designed and whether they're using pre-recorded lectures or incorporating live class time. But you want to make it clear who to contact about what. Okay, and this is an important topic, is the video length. I've been in classes where someone recorded an hour-long lecture. People's, attention span is like 10 minutes. An hour lecture, you just tune out and let it run in the background, don't pay attention to it. So the model courses, maybe you have an hour's worth of things you want to put in a recorded lecture, but you could break it into 10, 15-minute sections and then incorporate one question quiz or one reflection type question, or ideally something you want them to interact with, to answer or to write a little sort of casual response to. It's just to keep them engaged. And also, if you have a lot of terminology, that helps to break up the immense amount of things that they're trying to grasp at once. And that breaking into segments is a highly recommended model. You can do a poll, you can do anything in between your sections of lectures. That gives them a chance to take a break if they want to go eat lunch or something, but they still feel like they've finished a segment rather than just ignoring half of a really long lecture. So in my helping skills class, I tend to make 10 to 20 minute pre-recorded lectures, and I like to put 2 of them in there. I actually am using 2 books, so I like to do like a 10-minute lecture on the reading, and they don't have a heavy reading schedule in here. They're reading generally 2 chapters a week. So I can do a 10-minute lecture on one topic. And we have written exercises out of the one book. While the second book, I'll do the lecture on it and they'll have a quiz on those, but I've kind of kept it bifurcated that way so they know they're going to have quiz just on this one book, and we're going to have more of the practice items out of the second book. But they have some kind of written exercise every week. They have a quiz every week, and they have their reading. But after we got rolling, after we get rolling about the 3rd or 4th week, we start with the role plays. And so we have incorporated videos. Everybody's got a phone, right? They can record themselves. And we start with just a 5-minute role play where they're not allowed to ask questions. They have to just reflect. If you all teach counseling. In fact, that's another poll. I wonder if we can run that. How many of you, I'm kind of interested in what topic you do teach, that you'd listen to this presentation about counseling. While you all are okay, 1 counseling, but we got 7 in psychology and 5 in something else. Okay, thank you. I just was interested in, helping skills is a subject that is taught in all these disciplines. Okay, it's still on there. So the 5-minute role play is intended as like an introduction to those kind of assignments, but also they have a bit of a technology hurdle to get over. So before they have their longer sessions to record and be frustrated with, I figure the 5-minute is a good introduction. I do have them complete, now I've lost the word, a permission slip from their participants, because I'm going to watch it and they're going to share it with the class, and they're required not to use somebody with actual mental health problems, but a volunteer. It's a role play, not a real counseling session. Just want to clarify that we're not sharing information we shouldn't. Then they do 3 20-minute recorded role plays, and follows the process of counseling. We would do like lots more of these if we were on campus. Excuse me. So the first one is an intake session where they're using an intake form. That's part of the assignment. I have them have the person who's role playing with them complete it so that they can, practice, something to practice your posture, practice fumbling with papers and checking through the intake form and trying to incorporate these helping skills. The second one is more just the active phase of counseling. And the third one is about the final session and how to end counseling and, refer or conclude counseling, which is an important aspect of it. And so the way that we handle these videos, because they make large files, is to have them save it in their Google Drive, and they can create a link. The link then can be pasted into an assessment in Blackboard. If all else fails, they can email me the link. And I do want to say this. My class size is between, I think 40 is the cap, but I average 25 to 30 students a semester. Watching 3 20-minute role plays plus the 5-minute role plays is time consuming, but there is a very handy gadget in Blackboard where you can speed up while you're listening to it. I'm sorry to admit that, but it is a lot of, it takes longer than just grading a paper or a short assignment, I want to say. But I do try to give them feedback on that, and I do want to spend time watching and observing, because that's why they're in this course. And anyways, I do acknowledge that it can be time consuming, but I think it's the best way to teach counseling. I mean, we all had to do lots of role plays in classes and record ourselves and watch ourselves and listen to ourselves. That's a major way that we learn in this particular field. Okay, so I do try to do a lot of self and peer evaluation. So with these videos, as an example, the students record the videos of the role plays. I'm going to give them feedback. Then I'll have them submit a page or two of dialogue, a verbatim in discussion, and evaluate one another based on the helping skill that we're studying that week. They identify it and rate each other. Our textbook has a rating system about how empathetic the response was. And then they're required to submit an alternative way the student might have responded. By requiring it for everybody, I avoid them, hopefully hurt feelings. I do make an announcement. We're all going to make suggestions, so don't anybody take it personally. And then they also have to go through, ultimately in the course, they're going to listen to all these role plays together in their final paper and list some time points where they could have changed something, or they missed something, or they got stuck. A couple in each one of those, because we're all learning what, they're just beginning their journey as becoming a counselor. And that's why I try to incorporate evaluations with the videos. When they're doing written evaluation of written scenarios, they do post some of those in discussion, and their assignment is to go through and read other students' responses and suggest alternatives as well. Okay. Yeah. So I do use the written discussions, and some I set up as tests so they don't share. In discussions, and you all know this, at the beginning of your semester, always include introductions. Blackboard lists that as a requirement too. I don't use a lot of discussions in this course. I know students get sick of discussion board, but I do try to vary it. And it's kind of fun in counseling and psychology, because you can use a whole lot of self-evaluation, like personality tests, stress tests. I have a grief test in one class, things that you can use in discussion and mix up your assignments that way. So in the test format in the center of this screen, I do have content-based quizzes on the one book, and then we have just 10 of those quizzes in a semester. I mean, I don't even have a final exam in this course because I look at it as a more of a practice course rather than a one where they really need a final exam. That final paper where they're reviewing what they've learned, I think, is more helpful. And I'm sorry to ask this. I hope Victoria is listening. I can't see my clock. I should have put my watch. I'm just doing a time check.
We are at right at the 30-minute mark.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. And so in a test format, then I also have those helping skill analysis. We apply those to different scenarios, like how would you reflect in this situation? How would you confront what are you hearing in this written assessment? Some of those are in test format, then individually graded and not shared for peer evaluation and discussion. And I've already talked about that paper a bit, so I won't belabor that. Okay, so I did talk about adding the Zoom meetings, which I have really, really enjoyed. During COVID, I really started doing almost weekly with those in a course, even though we weren't required to, because it just helped to build a cohort of students. It helped me to get to know them, and it really was a super way to go over the previous week's assignments and really drill home some of the points I wanted them to learn. You can also use your Zoom meetings for office hours. I know some people like to do that. Just say, well, Blackboard has this thing called Collaborate built in it, and it is like a Zoom meeting. And so you have like an instructor's room that you can just click into. And I've done that before too, where you just say, I'm going to be on there live from 1 to 2 every Monday, and pop in with a question or say hello. And that makes sure even during COVID, you could still be accessible, even if they couldn't walk into your office the way they used to. I think I've talked faster than I thought, because you guys will be happy to know I'm getting to the last slide. These are just some other tools that I'm sure you guys are very familiar with Zoom by now from when I wrote this. Whiteboard is another tool that I underutilize. It seems like it'd be more helpful for a math class, but maybe you guys can think of some ways to use it for exercises or brainstorming how to deal with particular cases. All right, so this is my last slide. I'll talk about it for a minute. So feedback and continuous improvement is something that Blackboard exemplary classes really likes to emphasize. So, we do invite our adult learners to evaluate how well they have reached the course objectives. And we're actually do a survey our school does at the end of every semester, and they ask standard questions, but we're required to read them in our annual feedback, our faculty evaluation. We're asked to describe what we do with those evaluations and how we responded to them, or what we might be changing based on the feedback. So that's an important part of what we do at our college. I also enjoy the feedback on quizzes and tests. I had a lawyer that taught us when I did my undergrad in accounting, and he told us if we could make a case for the question, the multiple choice question we chose, he'd consider giving us credit. And so I would always challenge stuff because you're hoping, right, if you got something wrong. And so I invite all my students to do that. If they've gotten something wrong, to dig into it and make a case for it. And that helps me know that they're studying, they're looking more deeply at it. And sometimes I need to make a question clearer. I need to reevaluate whether I even need to keep that quiz in the question, or something about the test that needs to be revised. So I take that seriously, and I feel that it really helps them to learn. So sometimes I get annoyed because everything takes time, right? When you're teaching, but I just see huge value in that, and I, in fact, enjoy. It tends to be your best students who take you seriously on that, um, but they challenge me too, and that's important. And when I do that, if I change a quiz question and everybody gets credit for it, I like to say, who mentioned the problem or who found the issue, and it gives them a little boost in online format. But I think it helps to build camaraderie among the students. I just imagine them all cheering. Yeah, got an extra point. But I get better assessments for interaction, for all those kind of things when they're doing their feedback. So I just challenge you. So what can you do to encourage feedback from your students when you're teaching in higher ed, depending on your program, where they are? You've got adult learners in there. So sometimes they're serious learners, and some students are afraid to ever ask a question or make a suggestion, while others, of course, give you frivolous things at times. But that's something I think that we all need to do, is continuously improve our courses, and the students who are in them really have the bird's eye view of how courses run. And consider also looking into the Blackboard exemplary course program, and even submitting one of your classes to try to get that rating. I've got one to evaluate now. I'm a little late getting back on the evaluation, but I think that's a very good program to help us as faculty in higher ed. I don't know about you. I was trained in my program. I had one class in teaching, so teaching has always been something I've always enjoyed. These kind of going to these kind of webinars to learn more about, because we don't really have generally a foundation in education, as well as the strong foundation we have in the topics, the subject matters that we become experts in. All right, I'm gonna stop babbling, and I hope you guys have lots of questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kerlin. That was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and these ideas with us. If anyone has any questions at this time, you can please go ahead and enter those into the Q&A box, and we'd be happy to address those at this time. I'll just kick us off. I had a quick question and a comment. So first of all, I'm actually a online counseling student myself. I'm pursuing my master's. And so I know you mentioned the discussion boards and how students don't get as excited about those. And then, utilizing that video component. So I just had to comment, as a student in this situation, I completely agree. And I get excited about, getting to submit a video versus that discussion board, which I kind of feel is more of just an essay. So I really liked that idea, but I can always imagine when I submit my video, how many other videos my instructor has to watch. So I'm sure other people may be wondering, where do you find that feature that allows you to kind of streamline that process of watching the video, kind of speeding it up? Can you tell us where that's located?
Oh, let's see. It is on the bottom right of my screen. I don't know if that helps. There's a little settings tab and you click it and you can do, it will say normal speed, 1.25, 1.5. I usually have to stick at 1.5 or it's too fast for me to pick up on. But that's very helpful. And I try to really limit and say I'll penalize them if they go more than 30 minutes because I'm not watching an hour practice. 20 minutes is tops and 1.5, you can watch it in like, what would that be? 12 minutes, not too bad.
Mhm.
But 30 of them, that's a lot of bad TV. But
Yeah.
it is really fun for me to see students in action and get a sense of their personality. And you can tell who's comfortable and who's done this before and who has not,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I did see one thing in the Q&A box. It's not a question, but it is another comment. Professor Joshua Lakin said, I graduated from Luther Rice in 1977.
Wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you must have been, I think they were still in Florida back then in the day.
You guys are in Georgia now, right?
We're near Stone Mountain. Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful
No,
area.
yeah. Was it you that had a relative there? Somebody else emailed from your company. I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. My dad got his doctorate at Luther Rice.
Oh, I'm sorry, my
Yeah.
dog barked.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. And I didn't know that Hawks had all these webinars. I'll be looking to see what you all offer. So I'm always trying to learn.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you to all of our attendees this morning. And if you all have any questions, you can always reach out to our team, and we're always happy to connect with Dr. Kerlin to make sure you have the answers you need. So if you think of a question later, you can always reach out to us. And we do encourage you all to just be on the lookout for more of our learning and growing webinars. We always love to host these opportunities to network with other instructors across the country and just share these ideas that we're learning in and outside the classroom. So thank you, everyone. And we have recorded today's session, so we will be sharing that link with everyone who registered, so that if you want to share this with your colleagues, you are more than welcome to. Thank you again, Dr. Kerlin. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye.